Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Today we're back with New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today best-selling romance author Aleatha Romig. Hey, Aleatha, welcome back.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Sure, thanks for joining us again today. And I'm super excited. I want to discuss writing dark romance with you. Romantic suspense, thrillers, and romantic comedy as well. So, Aleatha, you've written across multiple genres, including what I just said, dark romance, suspense, thriller, romantic comedy. So a lot of different genres. How do you shift your mindset and writing style when transitioning between these different genres?
For one thing, I changed my tense. For example, my suspense thrillers and dark romance are all in past tense, as far as he said, she said, and my romantic comedies are in present. So that's one of the ways I change it to lighten it up for those. But I would say that's the biggest difference.
Oh, that's interesting. It's kind of like when you feel like you're in the moment, it's a little more, I feel like lighthearted. And so it almost reminds me of like watching Friends or something.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Now, dark romance often pushes boundaries. How do you strike the right balance between exploring dark themes but keeping the romance compelling and emotional?
Well, I mean, my writing has, I would like to say, matured since my first series, which was Consequences. Consequences was fade to black. And so there were a lot of things that happened off the page. And I mean, I can remember having readers contact me and say, I can't believe you had Claire go through this. And they would tell me, and I'd say, it's not there. And they'd say, oh, yes, it is. It was so traumatic for me. And I said, find me the passage because it's not there. So that was it actually, I think it allowed people to take it to all different levels, where one reader might only take it so far, another reader would take it further because that's where their mind went with the fade to black. I don't write fade to black anymore. So I am a little bit more explicit, but my dark, to be honest, is probably like gray compared to a lot of the dark out there. I mean, a lot of the dark has pushed the boundaries in places that I'm not comfortable pushing them. So I don't mind pushing a little bit, but I won't fall over the edge, I guess.
Right. I like how there's a little bit of open to interpretation that you play with your
Yes,
readers.
I mean, even though I am not really fade to black anymore, especially with my more romantic scenes, I do let people use their imaginations too.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, your romantic suspense thrillers are known for their twists and turns. Do you outline your plots in advance, or do the twists emerge organically as you write?
The twists emerge organically. I am not a plotter. I have tried. I feel like it constricts me. I can't think that far ahead in the story to plot it all out to a way I want it because I've literally sat down to write what I think I'm going to write and it turns into something totally different. I really try to bring my characters to life and let them tell the story.
I think that's such a great point because I think a lot of the assumption is that great writers like you always are plotters. And maybe you plot some things, characters, but I love how you kind of naturally let the story evolve based on the interactions and where you feel like it's going as you're like immersing yourself as the writer into the story.
Well, because if it surprises me as I'm writing it, then it's going to surprise you while you're reading it.
Right.
And
Yeah, that's a
so
great point.
I really have a problem, and this is from way back. I used to read thrillers before I was ever a writer. I read thrillers. I didn't really read romance. And it was because back then romance was different. It was all traditionally published and it was very cookie cutter. And that's not to put down those authors. That was what they had to do to get to sell their books. But I mean, I could go to like pay, I could go to the third chapter of one book and the third chapter of another book and the third chapter of another book by all different authors, and they were all the same spot in the story. And so that's what I don't want to have in my books. I want you to be surprised. And I want you to want to keep turning the page because you don't know what's going to happen.
Now, I want to transition and talk about your characters a little bit. What tips do you have for creating emotionally complex and morally gray characters that readers still root for?
I think part of it is I love to write series. And so my most recent are standalone, but in the past I've written like 3 to 5 book series. And I feel like leaving a little mystery at first is good. So for example, I'm just gonna go back to one of my mafia stories, Web of Sin. You only got about 3 or 4 chapters from our anti-hero in the first book. Then in the second book, you start getting more. And then, in the third book, you were getting almost even. But that not knowing what he's thinking and why is he acting this way is like intriguing. I mean, I like to usually mostly people have backstories, something that caused them why they're in the situation they're in. But if you give that to readers all up front, then it takes away some of that mystery. And I like to create the mystery of who is this man or this woman and why are they doing the things they're doing. And then as time goes on, you get to learn more. And then you're like, oh, I know I understand.
Yeah, I do really love that where you don't necessarily sometimes even like that character at the beginning, but as the story evolves and unfolds and you realize who they really are and why they really are that way, you start rooting for them and you realize, oh, I had such a bad first impression, but they were so misunderstood. And I think that's a really
Exactly.
fun part. It's like getting to
Yes.
know people in reality.
Right, right. Because I mean, most of them will have like this gruff exterior, this that they show the world. And I think part of what makes us as women, at least for me, root for them is because once you break through that veneer, once the main character, female character, breaks through that veneer, then you see the man underneath, and but then that's not the man that anybody else sees, just her, and that makes their relationship even more special.
Right. Now, I want to switch a little bit and just talk about comedy again for a second. Comedy requires a different narrative rhythm than suspense. What techniques do you use to ensure that your romantic comedies land with humor and charm?
Well, they're called my lighter ones, and that's basically what they are, is they're light, they're low angst. And I think, I mean, I've had bad reviews that say, well, there was no angst in this because it's advertised as no angst. I'm sorry if you didn't catch that. Um, and I do that basically it's there's less hidden information. I mean, everything is pretty much up front, and the reader knows whether knows what's happening in the in the book, and even if the characters don't, and you're waiting for the characters to find it out. But you're again, this is when one of those places where I do like the equal POVs because I want you to understand both of them and where they're coming from, and I think that just is lighter in general. Plus, there's just not much suspense in those books. I mean, they're really great beach reads. The reason I started writing them, though, is because when I finished the Infidelity series, which I wrote for 18 months, I was wiped out. And before I ever became an author, when I was a reader, I love J.R. Ward. And I could read two or three of her books, and then I was like, okay, I need something lighter. And back in that day, I would go like Janet Ivanovich. Today I do Tara Civic or something. But I mean, the idea is it just kind of like a palate cleanser. And I started writing them for the same reason. I mean, my suspense takes a lot out of me, and writing a lighter one just kind of rejuvenates me.
Well, Aletha, thank you so much. That was wonderful insight on all things writing.
Well, thank you for having me.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to today's interview with the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and USA Today best-selling romance author Aleatha Romig. Be sure to check out our website for more videos. Wishing you all a fulfilling and successful writing journey.